Live from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, it's the Zach Ballinger Show, where we help you find your direction through purpose and passion. My name is Zach Ballinger. I am your host. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're really excited with our guests. We have a couple of announcements before we get into that. We are just streaming on YouTube right now. Later on, we'll be uploading the video to Facebook. We made a slight change to that. And so if you have any questions beforehand, you're welcome to go to YouTube and type those questions in for our guests today, as well as the new book, Don't Be a Zombie. For a lot of you guys who are out there asking about it, it is available on Amazon for order and finding a career that you love. So without further ado, Shaun, thank you so much for joining the show today.
Thanks, Zach. Pleasure being here, and look forward to our conversation.
Yeah, so I just want to jump right in. What is your exact title and your job description?
Yeah, so my title is the Planning and Performance Director, and we kind of shorten that up and call it a Chief of Staff role for the organization I work in. I work for Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield of Kentucky in the Medicaid division specifically, and also help serve our West Virginia market in Medicaid as well.
And so if, you're a student or an entry-level professional is listening to this interview, how best do you sum up your job in layman's terms?
I think in short, for my role, it's just about getting your foot in the door and getting experience. I work in health insurance, the healthcare industry, getting your foot in the door with whatever role you possibly can, and learning the business. And I think that's for any industry. Find an industry that you enjoy, find a role that you enjoy and that you want to make obtainable. Get that first job, that first internship, and just learn the business and move around. I think that's my advice to a lot of students out there today is don't put yourself in a box necessarily and say I just want to do marketing, or I want to do human resources, or I want to do operations, communications, do a little bit of everything and take that challenge. I did HR for probably 20 years before I had this opportunity to leave human resources. That was a big step for me because I got my degree in HR. I've done it for so long. I felt comfortable in that. So when I was asked to step out of being in my comfort zone, that was pretty nerve-wracking for me. But it was also exciting for me as well to be able to experience and utilize the talents that I had built up over the years, which I really didn't know until after I left HR. I was like, wow, there's a lot of skill sets that I've built to be able to translate into this new position. So I think that's something, that's really some good advice for young students is I know you're excited, you get a degree, you want to do that first job and you utilize that degree. Do it for a couple years and then, find something else in the organization and take that challenge to make you a well-rounded individual. And the more positions that you take in a company or the more positions that you take outside the company make you more well-rounded and certainly more marketable, especially in an economy such as what we're dealing with in a pandemic.
And so just so you guys know out there, usually chief of staff, you don't just get a degree in human resources and then start there. You work your way up. So Shaun, you kind of mentioned that you mainly worked in HR. Let's say somebody's out there and they're like, what does HR even stand for? What does it mean? Why should I get a degree in it? What kind of skills transfer? Can you give us a brief summation of that?
Yeah, HR is just human resources. And when you think of HR, you usually think of, that's the first person I may talk to get a job. When you fill out an application, depending on the size of the organization, you may have a recruiter that contacts you. You may have an HR professional that contacts you. It really depends on the size of the organization. And HR really is about human capital. It's about the employees, bringing them into the organization, getting them trained and developed, putting them in the proper roles and the right seats at the right time, as I say. So there's many facets of HR too. There's called HR generalist, which is basically kind of a one-stop shop HR person who knows a little bit about benefits and compensation, employee relations, those types of functionalities. Going to a larger organization, those will probably be separated. So when you think about HR overarching, there's a benefits department. When you think of benefits, that's your health insurance. When you sign up for benefits, it's at the end of the year. Most of your benefits are signed up through the end of the year. So right now you may be doing that. Your parents may be doing that right now. So those benefit folks do that in HR. There's compensation. Employees that work on compensation strategies. You have employee relations representatives. Those folks typically work with managers and employees. Could be issues. It also could be just training. And that leads into training and development departments. Those are often outside of the HR bucket, but really work closely. So there's multi areas of human resources when you think about HR. So if you're interested in human resources as a career, you're getting a degree in that program. I really stuck with the advice I was given 20 years ago of being that generalist. I was told, listen, you learn a little bit about all those facets, benefits, compensation, employee relations. That will make you more well-rounded and you could go anywhere. And that really served me in my HR career over the years. I've worked probably 7 or 8 different organizations in multiple industries because I had a strong background in a little bit of everything in HR. But if you've got a passion for benefits, stick with benefits. If you've got a passion for training and development, there's certainly large organizations out there that have training and development teams to where you can build programs to help build out large-scale teams and so on and so forth. So lots of opportunities in human resources, right now with the pandemic, and lots of benefit questions with FMLA, Americans with Disabilities Act. Those are all types of legalities and laws that you will have to know as an HR professional. So a lot of companies are really leaning in hard to their HR staffs because they need good talent. They need to retain the talent, and they certainly need to do it legally as well. So I see a bright future for the human resources sector for sure.
Thank you for explaining that. That's a great explanation for somebody that's out there listening, maybe wanting to dip their toes in that type environment. Now, for your career now, what do you like most about your job? As being as chief of staff, you kind of worked up at the organization. What do you enjoy? What are you passionate about?
I think the thing that I like about my role today is it's new every day. When you think about chief of staff, think about it in a way of just like being the chief of staff for the president of the United States. Every morning around 7:30, I kick off my morning with my market plan president. We have about a 30-minute meeting. We talk about what's on tap for today. What big major meetings do we have internally within the organization? Also big meetings externally within the organization. What problems happened the day before that we may need to still address today. And then my favorite is what we call the fire of today, which is something that comes out of the blue and it's a major issue and we have to stop and drop everything that we're doing to deal with the situation. And for me, that's what's exciting about the role is that's not defined. It's the critical thinking aspect that you have to be quick on your feet. You have to be very nimble to handle. You could be on a conference call with someone that you've never met internally or externally. And that's what drives me every day is there's a problem and it needs to get fixed. And then for my role, it's about really connecting the dots inside the organization. Anthem is a very matrixed organization. We have about 62,000 employees around the globe. So I could be on a call with someone in California or someone in India or the Philippines at any given time dealing with an issue. And I have to be able to have a very good communicative background, cultural background, and be able to have a high emotional intelligence in order to deal with a lot of situations. So it's the fact that every day is a new day for me that I enjoy.
Awesome. And you talked about getting your degree in human resources. And that's the majority of where your time has been spent. What is one of the biggest career mistakes you've made in your life?
Oh, wow. That's a good interview question, Zach. I think early on in my career, just being young, and this is typical. You think that you have to, or you want to be the next vice president or the next director, and it doesn't happen as quickly as you anticipate it to happen, and you get frustrated. And typically, when we get frustrated, the first thing we want to do is we want to go ahead and go to another company. And we call that job hopping at times. And my advice to young people is, listen, you've got a lot of your career ahead of you. I mean, we typically work 40 to 45 years in our career, some longer. Don't get in a hurry. Sometimes having patience with the organization is just as good as getting more experience at your next stop if you decide to leave, if that makes sense. I never would have been in the position I'm in today if I wouldn't have spent 4 or 5 years in the role at Anthem. And then because of that, my experience paid off, and they saw what I could bring to the table, and it ultimately got me promoted. So I think some of the early mistakes early on in my career were just being too aggressive with wanting to reach the ladder and climb the ladder too quickly without really, and I hate to say pay your dues, but in honesty, it was more about gaining experience, and I didn't realize. I thought I had the experience, and I didn't. So just being more patient is something if I were to look back on a younger Shaun, Zach, I would tell myself to, just simmer down a little bit and, take it to the next step.
It's great advice. The first book I wrote in the hot seat, How to Meet the Challenge of a New Era in Job Interview. And I talked about when you're researching the company or positions and you're out there, getting ready for that job interview, it's important to learn via the internet or connections or however you will. What does the timeline look like in that particular industry or that particular field or that particular company? In other words, they say, what do you want to be 5 years from now? You're not saying, well, I want to be the next CEO. I mean, you got to have that's where that research comes into play, where you know exactly what those career level ladders look like. For example, if somebody's out there listening and they want to be chief of staff at a big insurance company, the likelihood of them getting a degree in human resources and then applying for that job are slim to none. And so you have to know what the organizational flow is. And that's a part of your research, is also a part of your career development. So I really like that advice. What did you dream of when you were a kid? Let's say, you think back, we took a young Shaun from fifth, sixth grade, or even younger. What was your dream career?
I like a lot of young people, I daydreamed a lot about being a professional baseball player or a lead guitarist in a rock band because I was a kid who grew up in the 80s. So, eventually you get about to mid high school level and you figure out that those dreams aren't just going to happen. So I went to college like a lot of folks do, and got an advertising degree because I liked watching ads on television. And literally that's how I made my decision and spent the first 4 years of my college career, which was not a good strategy. I probably, looking back, would have taken a year off maybe, just having that gap year just to figure out really what I wanted to do. And I'll tell you, I've been all over the place, and this may be good for your viewers out there and other students. I got an advertising degree the first time I went to school, came out and got a master's degree in HR, spent about 15 years in human resources, then had another career shift midlife, I would say, and went back to school at the age of 40 and got a nursing degree and became an RN for 2 years. So I literally worked in the ICU here in the Louisville, Kentucky area for 2 years. But was a fairly good nurse. And then Anthem literally recruited me back into human resources because I had a clinical background, and it made perfect sense to come in and support a health care initiative organization with a clinical background that I've done HR with. So spent 4 or 5 years doing HR again, then got moved into this chief of staff role recently. But I think that, don't get caught up too early in your life. You do have to, find some area of focus, but don't keep those boundaries. Like I said earlier, make sure that, your boundaries, you're okay with leaving them after a while. It's okay to get a degree and midlife go, I think I can do something else, or I have different passions. And that's a part of the life cycle. As I got older, I wanted different things. I got married. I had children. My perception of life changed. Things like that happen. And I think that's the joy of living is being able to, you're never going to be the same person you were 5 years, 10 years, 15, 20 years ago. And that's the joy of keeping things exciting and new. So don't let yourself get boxed into, this is what I want to do. And I'm going to be doing it when I'm 60, because most likely you're not. And a lot of that's dictated by the world we live in. I think, Zach, you probably talk to many people who've been affected by the pandemic and the unintended consequences that have happened over the last 9-10 months. So I think a lot of folks are reevaluating, what they do for a living, their circumstances, the jobs that they used to do, and what they want to do going forward. And that's never going to change. And you have to be nimble in life. I think that's a key aspect as well.
Yeah, I've been preaching it for a long time. There's no such thing as a secure job, no matter how secure you think you are. And I think that advice might have come true come March. A lot of people found themselves that, thought they would never be laid off or their career never to be changed, be thinking. I like the shifts that you talk about. I know we both have a 1 o'clock hard stop, but I'd like you to talk a little bit about that. So you were in HR for a long time, and then you decided to be a nurse. And I always comment on that, because I found, Shaun, through people in life, and this is what I'm going to tell people, is I enjoyed sales when I first got into it. I really enjoyed it. I was passionate about it. But, after a while, your interests, your skills, your abilities start to change. Maybe you get tired of it. And so I found myself hating the job, but it wasn't like I first hated it when I got into it. So, talk about that, why you decided to become that nurse. What made you decide to go to that role?
Yeah, it was around 2008, Zach, and that was right on the cusp of the last major recession that we had. And I was laid off. It was as simple as that. And I spent about 2 years trying to do my own thing, doing some consulting, HR consulting. It's a very difficult market to find work. I was about mid-career in HR. I'd done it for 14, 15 years. It was not easy to find work. And, I just had this really strong sense that it may be time to shift, to change what you're doing. I was late 30s, still had plenty of time. Unfortunately, my wife decided to become pregnant with twins at the same time I lost my job. So I was going through just emotional roller coaster during that time frame. And, my grandmother was a healthcare worker back in the 40s and 50s and 60s. And I think I had a little bit of DNA in me. And, I was led to nursing. I went and applied at our local school here in Louisville, Spalding University, and got into the adult nursing program, and went and sat in classes with a lot of young folks that I looked like a parent of theirs. Got my nursing degree in 2 years, and spent 2 really good years in the intensive care unit at University Hospital and Jewish Hospital here in Louisville, and just absolutely loved it. It's probably the best job I've ever had. Being a floor nurse, there's nothing better than coming home and telling your loved ones that, someone coded in the hospital tonight and you saved their life. That is an everyday occurrence in the ICU most of the time. I did have my share of losses, which did affect me. And nursing is such a great, great career. But it does have a wear and tear on your body and your mental fatigue as well. I'd still probably do it. I would still probably be doing that today if an Anthem recruiter did not call me and offer me a really good opportunity to help folks in a different way, and kind of in the way I used to in HR. And I'm thankful for my organization for giving me that opportunity again. But if this ended today and I had to go back to be a floor nurse tomorrow, that's the beauty of nursing. I certainly could do that. And they're certainly needed right now with the situation that we're living in today. It was scary on both ends. It was scary leaving HR, scary getting back in, and then I'm still scared about I left it again. So, life doesn't always give you the directions, if you will. Sometimes you have to go with those gut feelings, and I've been doing that for a good while. And I've made some pretty good decisions, made some poor ones too. But I think today, I just don't worry about 20 years from now. Take care of today, and really find that passion and love for what you want to do out there.
Shaun, thank you so much. I think this advice is much needed. You did a great job exposing this career field. Appreciate your time. I know you're a busy guy, and I thank you so much for joining the show and giving back today.
Thank you, Zach. It's good seeing you all, and good luck to everyone out there in their careers.
Thank you. Have a great day.